Welcome back to the program, but first here are some of your stories in brief. We begin with members of the civil society organizations and pressure groups who are asking the Senate to expand the scope of a bill against sexual harassment in tertiary institutions to include students in primary and secondary schools. They put forward this position at a public hearing on a bill to prohibit sexual harassment in tertiary institutions. But the national president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, says the proposed legislation fails to take cognizance of extant legislations that deal with sexual harassment. Elsewhere, Musa Mohammed Adamu, son of the late lawmaker representing Garki Babura Federal Constituency of Jigawa State, he has emerged winner of the All Progressives Congress APC primaries for the by-election of the vacant seat. Musa Adamu, who defeated 3 other candidates in a landslide victory, polls 547 votes, with his brother Ali Mohammed Adamu as the second runner-up with 32 votes. Now, the recent decision by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to deregister 35 political parties in the country may have suffered a slight setback as the Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday restrained the commission from carrying out the action. Justice Awon Ichikere gave the interlocutory order at the hearing of a suit by some of the political parties deregistered by the commission. The judge says INEC failed to oppose the application by the applicants whose rights of association must be protected.
The Independent National Electoral Commission had on the 6th of February 2020 deregistered 74 political parties from participating in fresh elections.
For this reason, that the National Assembly amended the Constitution to empower the Commission to deregister political parties on the following grounds. 1. Breach of any of the requirements for registration as a political party. 2. Failure to win at least 25% of the votes cast in one state of the Federation in a presidential election, or 25% of the votes cast in one local government area of a state in a governorship election.
INEC said the deregistered parties breached their requirements for registration because they failed to win at least 2,596 of the votes cast in one state of the Federation during the presidential election. With the hint of a possible deregistration, 3 political parties, who were later joined by 32 others, approached the Federal High Court seeking an order restraining the electoral body from carrying out the proscription of the political parties. Ruling on the interlocutory motion between Advanced Congress of Democrats and 2 others against the AGF and INEC, the court restrained the electoral umpire from deregistering any political party. The national chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council reacts to the ruling.
It is very important for you to know that parties standing here today, some have been to court before in 2012, the court brought them back. Because it is about freedom of the Nigerian people. It is about freedom of participation. It is about freedom to be able to prosper the gospel of free democratic tenants in our country. Because when people are restricted from doing what they are supposed to do to project the interests of our country, it breeds anarchy.
The Action People's Party, APP, had also filed a suit and obtained a court order restraining INEC from deregistering it. With the court pronouncements, the deregistered parties may now heave a sigh of relief.
Well, we'll take a closer look at the issue. The Director of Voter Education and Publicity at INEC, Mr. Oluwole Osazozi, joins us now to give perhaps INEC's angle to this issue. We'd like to thank you for joining us on the program. I must start by asking what we heard the judge said, and that is that INEC failed to oppose the application by the applicants, and whose rights of association the judge said must be protected. Why did INEC fail to do so?
Thank you. But first of all, let me just quickly point out that this is an interlocutory injunction. It hasn't determined the merits of the case or the rights of the parties. Apparently, some originating processes were served on us, but there's some dispute as to whether we received the motion on notice, which was heard, or which ruling was given yesterday. And I'm aware that the counsel to the plaintiffs, to the political parties, even tried to stop the delivery of that ruling and said he had a new application predicated on the fact that the registration has actually occurred. So there's nothing for the court to restrain. But that application is yet to be heard. Instead, the judge gave an accelerated hearing of the matter, and as parties come back to court in 2 weeks' time. So we did not oppose because we did not want to be heard. We'll investigate what really happened and find out why necessary processes were not filed as against that particular motion on notice. And let me correct an impression the reporter said there. They were not deregistered only because they did not meet the necessary threshold at the elections. 225A, Section 225A of the fourth alteration of the Constitution says if you breach any of the conditions for your registration, and quite a number of them were deregistered because they had breached the conditions for their registration. Some fell into the two categories: breach of the conditions for registration and also failure to win the necessary threshold, 25% of votes in a state for presidential elections and 25% local government for governorship elections and so on and so forth.
But what's your response to the accusations that you're truncating a free democracy, freedom of association, and especially a comment that says INEC has been charged to wield its big stick against political parties, but rather it is bullying smaller parties?
That's absurd. It's really ridiculous. I think people who make that assertion either have turned a blind eye to the fourth alteration, Section 225A. And you cannot say a part of the Constitution is unconstitutional. It is Section 225A of the Constitution, which is not subject to any other part, that gives INEC the right to deregister parties. And you want to see about registration, you look at the 221 to 227 or 228. And these are dealing with registration. Until now, political parties were the only creations of law that had no way of exiting the scene when they have outspent their usefulness. And that has been corrected by the fourth alteration. So it doesn't close the space in any way. What the same constitution that gives you the right of association in Section 40 also gives the Commission the right to stop associations parading themselves as political parties when they no longer meet the criteria for functioning as political parties. It doesn't stop you from going to register new political parties, no. But 225A has given us the right that if they fail to meet certain conditions, then they should be deregistered.
But doesn't this mean that this will keep being a cycle if we have this deregistering ongoing, or that you have done, and then we have this matter in court, and then it appears we also have some political parties that are piling up to be registered for future elections?
Well, that is what the Constitution says. And you and I, if we're not satisfied with it, we must obey it until the Constitution is amended. Every citizen has the right to associate and the right to form political associations and the right to be registered if they meet the criteria. So we cannot stop that. But if Nigerians feel that we should constrict the space, then Nigerians have to amend that constitution by going through their representatives in the National Assembly and getting the president to assent to that. If they do that, we'll go with whatever the law says, whatever the constitution says. We are all bound by the constitution. It's the constitution that holds us together. It's the supreme law of the land. So we must look at what it says at all times and give effect to its provisions. Courts ordinarily, and by the time the end of the matter, you'll find out that courts will not restrain the performance of a constitutional duty. I don't think they will do so. But that is a matter to be settled by the court when it comes to the main hearing of the case. All
right, Mr. Oluwole Osazu is the Director of Voter Education and Publicity with INEC. We'd like to thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you.
A former Minister of Education and former Vice President at the World Bank, Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, she's researching on ways to make governance and politics in Nigeria viable. In her findings, she believes that as its current pace of growth, Nigeria risks not becoming developed even at the end of the 21st century. She says there's therefore a need to raise the influence and exertion of the powers of the electorate to make the vote of the low-income class expansive and flood the political space with a new political class trained on customized content on politics, policy, and governance to offer a new political culture that subordinates the individual to the collective welfare. There were major findings shared, Dr. Ezekwesili, at her conference on fixed politics hashtag held in Lagos. The initiative is in conjunction with the Robert Bosch Academy of Germany, proposing innovative ways of empowering citizens in Nigeria to disrupt the current politics.
Nigeria's monopoly democracy has no incentive to yield the distortionary damage that it has done to governance. They're not planning to. That's why every party that comes will tell you, we are the ones who are going to govern for the next 30 years. We will govern for 50 years. The monopolist does not yield ground. I show through the research and find through the research that at the current pace of growth, Nigeria, nay, Africa, risks not becoming developed even by the end of the 21st century. That is scary. That we would leave great-grandchildren to come and face the condition that we're in.
Well, news just then is saying that there's a second day as protesters are continuing to storm the national headquarters of the APC, seeking the ouster of the national chairman, Adams Oshiomhole. APC youth from the FCT, led by Mr. Yunusa Ahmed, stormed the national secretariat of the party in a peaceful protest, and they're also demanding the removal of the party's national chairman. The youths claim Mr. Oshiomhole is failing in his duties of providing quality leadership for the party. Well, our website, channelstv.com, has more of that story and others. Don't forget to continue to watch us. Channels Television, your home for the news. That's the program. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.